Hey guys, I'm back with a new video. In this video, we'll learn about the variables in Python. So in the previous video, we'll learn about the syntax of the language. So as we know from other programming languages, variables are boxes that are used for storing values inside it. Now unlike other programming languages, you cannot declare a variable in Python. What you can do is you can use some name for your variable and you can directly assign it a value at that very line, and that is a variable in Python. So a variable in Python is created the moment you first assign a value to it. So let us see some example for variables. So as you can see here, we defined a variable a and we set up a value of 10, and we did this in the previous video. So we were using variables in that video, okay? But now you know what a variable is. So we declared a variable a and set that to some initial value 10. So a is like a container or a box that contains a value of 10. Now, Python being a dynamically typed language, the variables in Python do not need to be declared with any particular type and can even change type after they have been set. Like if at line number 1, I change a to this, and if I print a to the terminal. Now what is happening here is that we gave an initial value of 10 to our variable a, and then we override that value with a string. So if we print 8 at line number 3 and run the file, and let us comment the below code, run the file, you can see a got overridden, that is the number got overridden by a string. That is why you got a value as a string. So you are printing name to the terminal, okay? So let us revert back. So it is possible that the same variable at one moment is holding a number and at the other moment it is holding a string or any other data type. So let us go back to our slides and now understand the naming rules for variables. So here on the screen you can see some rules for naming the Python variables. So a variable name must start with a letter or an underscore character. Second, a variable name cannot start with a number. Third, a variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores like English alphabet characters, digits, and underscore, okay? But it should not start with a number. The variable names are case sensitive, meaning that if we have 3 variables, game in lowercase, game with first character in uppercase, and game with all characters in uppercase, all 3 of them are different variables. So even though we have not seen functions in action, but let us see some code to understand what we mean by local and global variables. So first a brief theory. So global variables are those variables that are created outside of a function, and they are known as global variable because these are variables that sit on the root scope of your file or in the file scope of your script file in which you are writing the code. Then we have local variables. Local variables are those variables that are created inside of a function, and that is why they are known as local variables. They are defined only within the scope of the function, and they are only visible within the function, and outside the function you cannot reference them. So I'm back in my editor. Let us define a global variable that is basically defined on the root scope of our file and is visible to each and every function of our Python script file. Like you can see, a and b are global variables. S is also a global variable because these variables are sitting in the root scope of your file. They are defined at the top level of your file, and they are visible to each and every function that you will define in this script. I will define a global variable that is basically defined on the root scope of our file and is visible to each and every function of our Python script file. Let us define a variable game and set that to Counter-Strike. So now I will define a tell favorite game function. So as of now we are not aware of the concept of functions, but as an example I will define a function here. So you can define a function using def keyword and then the name of the function, so tell favorite game, and I will use the print statement here and say my favorite game is colon and game, and down below I will invoke the function by saying tell favorite game and use the parenthesis to invoke the function, just like in any other programming language. So now what will happen here is that first we will look inside our function. So within the function, whether we have a local variable for game If we do have one, we will use that. Otherwise, we will check whether we have a global variable, and we can see we do have one. So if we have one, we will use that, and this will print my favorite game is Counter-Strike. So let us run the file, and we're getting my favorite game is Counter-Strike. So now let us see an example for local variable. So what I will do is I will define a greet function, def and greet, and I will use a colon, press enter. And what I will do is I will define a local variable x and print that in the function itself. So I will say good morning, how are you? And then down below I will print x, and right after the function I will invoke the function by saying greet and parenthesis. So in this case what will happen is that within the function you have a local variable x. So on printing x, it will directly refer x that is within the function, and you will get good morning, how are you? So run the file, good morning, how are you? So this was all about the video on variables. So if you liked the video, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for all the upcoming uploads, and I will see you guys in the next video.